Yo, what's up everyone? The other day I was on Twitter and I saw this post of Osama Son, and they were comparing him to Carti, or saying he was biting Carti. And I was like, damn. And then I looked at it, I was like, hey, you know what? I kind of see what they're talking about now. But anyways, let me pop up the pictures for you. It's basically, he dyed his hair blonde and Carti had his hair blonde, so they just compared that. And then it was like a picture of Carti wearing a bandana and then him wearing a bandana. And it's not even about him wearing a bandana. I think Carti's bandana has like a SpongeBob on it. Honestly, that's kind of hard. But anyways, like their dreads are kind of similar and they're both wearing like a black jacket. I'm not saying that he looked at that picture and was like, yo, I'm a cosplay Carti. It's just the similarities are uncanny. I'm not gonna lie. So what really kind of shocked me about this is Osama Son already had comparisons to Ken Carson. You know what I mean? And he was getting a lot of, I wouldn't say hate, but there was just a lot of controversy around it for something I'll go into later. But you know, people were like, yo, why are you copying Ken Carson? And this was coming from like Ken Carson fans who were like, damn, who's this Ken Carson clone that's blowing up? I don't know what to call them. I'd call them like normie underground fans. Like they think they're like not trying to be like superior or anything, but like, you know, he's not a Ken Carson clone. But I will admit, he's not doing himself any favors. But if you're unfamiliar with the whole situation, let me bring you up to speed. Basically, Osama Son was this underground rapper that was, you know, he had his own little scene. Kinda, he had like a bunch of people he was collaborating with, like 1AM, Osanta, Wildcard Uno. Like that was like there are a couple more, but you know, they're all cool with each other. And there were a bunch of producers they were working with, like Bulimon, I think that's who you say his name, Perk 40, 30, you know. Osama Son himself actually started out as a producer, so he's even produced some of his older songs. And they had their own little wave, you know what I mean? It was cool, and a bunch of people gravitated towards it. And I guess Osama Son was just the artist with the it factor, so he started going up a little bit. And then he dropped his like first tape with like a decent amount of attention on it, Osama Season. And if you look at the cover, it's cool and all, but it's actually a copy of a picture Carti took in like 2017 around like the dye-lit era. And I'm not gonna lie, like no one really cared about it. I think his manager, High Tech Steph or something, like even posted it on his story, and they just like, it just looked cool, I guess, right? Like I thought it was cool too. It was just like a cool little thing. But once the tape actually dropped, it just went downhill. So let me explain. He went from working with his like little set of producers, and he didn't really ditch those producers. There's still some songs with them on there, like We're Gonna Be Okay and Bulimon and so forth. But if you look at his most popular tracks, they're not produced by those producers. His top 3 most popular songs are Trenches, X and Sex, and Lil O. X and Sex and Lil O are produced by a bunch of producers, but long story short, they've all produced for Ken Carson. And Trenches, a single he put out after Osama Season, is also produced by one of Ken Carson's producers. And because of that, the beats are Ken Carson type beats, you know, I'll admit that. And one of the songs that was produced by one of the producers he was working with earlier, Hutta, the way they mixed his voice, the way he made his voice sound, just made him sound like Ken Carson. And that's really where all the controversy came from, because all these Ken Carson fans, like NPC Ken Carson fans, heard that song and were like, yo, this guy's just a Ken Carson clone. Because you got to think about it, like they've never heard Osama Son in their life. So if you were like an Osama Son fan, you heard that, right? You just think, oh, he's expanding his sound, he's working with people that are a bit more mainstream or whatever, producers wise. But if you're a Ken Carson fan, right, you just hear a Ken Carson type beat and some other dude rapping on it. So I do kind of understand that. But whether it was an accident or not, or if he like obviously he didn't see it, you know, coming to this and having all this backlash, and definitely hurt his reputation, because there's a good chunk of fans, especially of Ken Carson, who just think this guy is a Ken Carson clone. And what's even worse is there's a good chunk of fans that aren't even fans of Ken Carson. They just know of his sound, or think they do, and also think he's a Ken Carson clone. And then of course recently, now they're saying, yo, he's even copying Carti, especially during like when he dyed his hair blonde. And you know, they're saying that he's cosplaying Carti from his 2017 era. That's when he dropped like self-titled and stuff. And it's not like Lil Uzi when he was cosplaying Young Thug's Barter 6 era for his promotion of Barter 16. And obviously Lil Uzi and Young Thug are friends. It's not that crazy. They're just similarities, you know what I mean? And you can definitely tell that Osama Son is a fan of Carti. Maybe not Ken Carson, but definitely Carti. He's actually listed Young Thug, Future, and Playboi Carti as his main influences. But what this all led up to was Osama Son allegedly being blackballed by Ken Carson. It came out by this like underground rap Twitter account, and basically he came out and made a tweet saying Ken Carson boycotting Osama Son is crazy. Someone then asked him with a question mark, so he elaborated further and he said he telling producers not to send beats. And then another fan said, how do you know this? And he explained he got it from a highly reputable source known as Wildcard Uno in a group chat. Anyways, for some reason, no one thought to question if this was real or not. They just ran with it, and it went everywhere. Everyone was like, yo, Ken Carson is blackballing Osama Son. That was kind of crazy to me too. I was like, wait, why would he even do that? Like, he's not that big. But because of all the allegations, or not, I don't know why I just said allegations, but because everyone was like, yo, this dude is copying Ken Carson, or at least they were acting like it, and you could kind of make a case for it. Everyone was just like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. I see why you wouldn't like him. And then you also take into account that all of Osama Son's biggest songs right now are produced by Ken Carson producers. You know, it might have been true. But later on, it seemed to have been fake. And then fans came up with another theory that it was allegedly Osama Son's team making these accusations up so that he could get more publicity because his next project, Flex Music, was coming out. Which, if he did that, that's honestly a little messed up. You know, you're hurting someone else's reputation for no reason. And after that, Ken Carson took to Twitter and he spoke in his I don't know how to explain it. He always switches up the way he writes. And right now, the thing he's doing is he adds no spaces in between the text he writes. So he said, I don't know those guys, stop chasing narratives, find better stuff to post, clout more valuable than money to you. So basically he said, yo, I don't know them, find other just better news to post, and Osama Son is fumbling the bag. So that's kind of what happened, and I just explained why Osama Son got all this flack for what he's been doing and his image and all that, and I guess his music or whatever. But to me, what's really weird and interesting about this is Osama Son had this unique, cool wave, and I'm not gonna lie, some of those beats he was hopping on, produced by Blue Man, they were cool, but the 808s were crazy. There's no way you could play one of those beats or anyone rapping over any of those beats to one of your friends in the car and not have them go, what the fuck are you playing for me right now? So I understand that, but he had kind of crafted this sound that could go mainstream but still stuck to what he was doing before, and those are the first songs for him to blow up. I'm talking about Troops, CTSV, Back from Dead, songs like that. So I'm really curious why he just give that up. He had fans, he was doing his own thing, and then all of a sudden he just started hopping on Ken Carson beats. I just don't understand why. I just don't get it. I feel like he was doing fine. I don't know. Personally, I just think he's been a big fan of Carti, and I guess when he started getting more buzz, he just decided, yo, I'm gonna show that influence a bit on my music, I guess. But here's a video by Carti, and he talks about what it takes to be friends with him.
But you realize that every artist that I fuck with don't sound like me. So, shit, sounding like me getting you signed, shit, rated 10. But you wanna be friends with me, show me something new.
So what's funny is he was actually right. Osama Son, quote unquote, sounding like Carti or Ken Carson did get him signed to Atlantic Records or WMG, whoever he signed to. But it's kind of ironic that being a fan of Carti, having his own little wave, and seeing how Carti's camp has actually reached out to artists similar to Osama Son in the past. For example, I mean, not music wise, but just in the same scene wise, kind of they reached out to Hard Rock the other day. They just gave Netspend a cosign. He could have easily gone that, in my opinion, if he hadn't taken this route. So I feel like it was just dumb. I'm gonna read you this comment from Ken Carson's subreddit. It says, I'm heavy into Ken and I just checked this dude out. He sounds like Ken in almost every song. In the song Kutta, apart from sounding the same, the ha 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 part is straight ripped off Ken and sounds like Ken. LMAO. They're calling him a Ken Carson clone that bought hella promo. And underground industry plan, which I'm not gonna lie, doesn't even make sense. What do you mean underground industry plan? But what I'm trying to get at here is he's getting slandered and just kind of roasted in these subreddits and online forums and Instagram comments by Ken Carson fans and Carti fans for no reason really. Apart from a couple songs, he's pretty original. But that's it for this video. If you want to know more about him, I actually have a video called Who is Osama Son that I made. I forget when I made it, but go check it out if you're interested. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day, and see you next time.